Hey man, let me ask you a question. Do you guys ever feel like you're just stuck in the muck? Like you can't get out of the weeds and clear your head and get some direction in life? Like you're just carrying around life with every single step that you take and you just feel so drugged down? That's exactly what we're going to be talking about today in this episode, is how to get out of the weeds, get into a clearing so that you can see the path ahead. Let's go to work.
Duty, honor, country dictate what you ought to be, what you can be, what you will be.
The destiny of man is not measured by material computations. When great forces are on the move in the world, we learn we're spirits, not animals.
Now we are the masters of our fate.
Hey there, gents. Welcome back to another episode of the Wolf and Iron podcast. I'm your host, Mike Yarbrough, founder and curator of wolfandiron.com, and I'm glad you're here. I want to talk to you guys about getting out of the weeds, and what this means is a lot of times getting out of your own way so that you can see the clear path ahead of you, know what your opportunities are, have a clearer vision for what the future holds, all the potential that's out there for you. That means for your family, that means for your business ideas, that means for any area in life, your strength, your health, and to see the clear open spaces in front of you. Now, before we jump into that, we've got to figure out what are the weeds that we're dealing with right now. What are the things that we have going on in our life that seem to be keeping us weighed down, bogged down, we're stuck in the muck, we can't seem to move forward. You know, we're going to become one of those like bog zombies or bog skeletons. Have you guys heard about these things? In the bogs in like Ireland and Russia and places like that, you know, people have fallen into bogs over the centuries, and we still find all kinds of stuff in there, right? We find like actually there was butter that was found in there that was like 2,000 years old, and apparently the stuff was still edible because the bog preserved. So people will be able to know that it was you in 2,000 years. But you're going to become a bog zombie, man. You're going to get so sucked in to the muck of life that you're never going to move forward. You don't want to be that way. So what exactly are the weeds and the muck that we get stuck in that we don't want to be in? And here's what I think it is. I think a lot of it is simply distractions and us trying to have control over the things in life that we probably don't have any business trying to control. Too many things going on that really don't need our attention. Life will carry on if we don't focus on so much. And so that's where we're going to start. Now, the one that comes to mind for me first is this propensity for us to not ever want to be bored and to always have some kind of distraction in front of us. Now, usually this is in the form of news or social media probably kind of being our source of news in a lot of ways now. But our idea of being bored today is so different than what it used to be in our grandparents' generation. And we have such a small window for boredom until we just feel like we can't stand it anymore. But this being constantly distracted by just whatever's happening, Facebook, Twitter, whatever the case is, Instagram. The reason that I call this being part of the muck and kind of stuck in the weeds and in the mire there is because it doesn't allow us to progress anywhere. It just kind of keeps us roped in to what everybody else has got going on, which is usually stuff that we don't really care about all that much. Or it keeps us fixated on the things that are happening in the news, which we usually don't have any control over and probably don't affect our lives immediately anyhow. It's just more stuff for us to kind of get wrapped up in that have no business in our life. We're willing participants in the ADD, ADHD problem probably 95% of the time. We want to be distracted. So the solution here is pretty simple. You got to pare down your social media life. You got to switch off the news, and you got to put either some quiet space in there or something that's actually productive. You see, when you're being productive, you don't feel like you're in the weeds. When you're being productive, you actually feel like you're moving forward out of all that mess and into a clearing where you actually can see where you're headed. And that's the goal. Okay, the next piece here. We try to control too much. At the end of the day, and this is part of our idea of our minds wanting to be distracted, always wanting to be busy with something, and that is we take whatever the low-hanging fruit is, even if the low-hanging fruit of problems in our life are really not things that we should be trying to solve. We don't need to be on our kids' case all day long to make sure that they're doing exactly the things that they ought to be doing. We don't need to try to solve all of our wives' problems. We don't need to be in everybody's business at work. Once again, we're not masters of our own universe. A little He-Man reference there. But we're not masters of much of anything except for the small area in which we have some influence. And you guys, you've got to know where that begins and where that ends. Part of getting caught up in the weeds is really your own desire to just manage everything that really doesn't need you to manage it. Now, it's difficult for me to get specific on this because you're going to have your own individual areas in life where you're just trying to control too much and you've got to pull back. But really, at the end of the day, that's the goal. That's what you want to do. You want to pare down your life and get to an area where you know what it is that you're responsible for. You need to get to that open clearing. And I'm using the clearing analogy here as just sort of an idea of you need to have a clear space in your mind. You got to have some space in your mind to be able to think about the things that are going on in your life, big picture kind of stuff, and not get so caught up in the small things. We need big picture guys out there. We need guys that think about where it is that they're heading with their life, where the country is going, where their businesses are going, to be able to foresee the mistakes in their life before they happen. I know you want to be that kind of man, and the way to do that is to pare it down and give yourself some headspace, get into that clearing. Now, you guys have probably seen this on a movie or read this in a book where the good guys or whatever, your team is under attack of some kind. Bad guys are coming over the hill, and the good guys they're going to be pinned down. They don't know what their next move is, and the best way for them to figure out what the next thing to do is to get to some high ground, survey the area. And so the leader of the soldiers ends up doing the thing that, the soldiers are like, what are you doing? This is crazy. He takes his horse, he goes away, and he goes and he climbs a mountain, and everybody down there is fighting, but he does the thing that everybody else absolutely needs him to do. And he goes and he finds some high ground, and he gets a view of what's actually happening, where the battle is actually taking place, and what the next best thing to do is. Guys, you can't do that very easily if you're caught up in the fight on everything. You've got to have some clear space. You've got to have some high ground. You've got to get out of the weeds. And the only way that you're going to do that is to begin to pare down your life and get rid of these distractions and be purposeful about the kinds of things that you let into your life, the kinds of things that you take up with your time. One of the great ways to practice this is by saying no to just about everything. You need to figure out what it is that actually matters to you in your life and what are your priorities, and everything else you say no. And it doesn't matter if it's church stuff. It doesn't matter if it's stuff for work. When I had a regular job, oftentimes, this was a great thing that the company did. They would have happy hour, once or twice a month. Guys would go out, people would go out and have drinks and maybe shoot pool or bowling or something like that. I said no to a lot of those things. And it's not because I don't drink. I like hanging out with people, but the reason I said no is because I've got a family to get home to. So you've got to know what matters most to you and just be willing to say no thanks to everything else. Simple as that. Now, one last thing, and then I'll wrap this up, and that is you need to practice being grateful for where you are in life, being thankful for what you have, and not spend so much time trying to pursue the next thing, whether that's a next level of income, the next level in your bank account, whether that's a new house, a new car, that kind of stuff. Because what happens in between those times is that the pursuit is itself a kind of distraction. Now, if you're progressing as a man in these areas, that's fine. Go for more money. Go for a nicer home if that's what you want. But keep an eye on this, because the pursuit itself is sometimes a tremendous distraction, and it keeps us from really seeing where it is that we want to go. So practice being thankful for the things that you have in life and understanding that where you are right now has a tremendous amount of blessing in it. And look, I'll tell you this, the weeds don't feel like weeds when you enjoy where you are. Gratitude can go a long way in healing the soul, my friends. Listen, my friend, you got to get out of the weeds. You got to get into that clearing. You got to get to a space where your mind has room to know what the next best thing to do is and to make some good judgments. Pare down your life, say no to the things that aren't absolutely critical. And until next time, keep your powder dry, and may a fair wind be always in your sails.